Me, a bro.
Yep.
He, a dude.
That's good stuff. All right. Let's try it. Okay. Welcome to the We Will Journey podcast. We're talking about faith and life as it happens, and not the glossy exterior we wish it was.
Oh.
What, man? What did I do wrong?
I think you said it's because all the things I was thinking about before. But we can edit that. You got that part good.
Oh.
You got it good. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just...
Now it's your turn.
Good?
Yeah.
Wait. We're going to get under the surface. I should have said all those things before. We should have waited down and dirty until after we read this part.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty. Okay. Maybe we should. It doesn't have to be word for word, right?
No. I mean, I gave an interpretation.
Okay. All right. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty of life as it pertains to our beliefs, our relationships, politics, and absolutely everything else.
Oh, there we go. That was good. All right.
When I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all my friends all gather round. They can say I'm just sleeping good alone, the sweet peace I have found.
3, 2, 1.
Well, hello, Seth. How are you on this fine afternoon in Austria?
I'm glad you remembered it was afternoon.
Yes. I got up early today. I got up very early, so I've had a lot of time to think and be totally prepared for this.
You did get up early. That's good.
Yeah.
I got up decently. Actually, I got up at 6:30, which for me 6:30, 6:40. Which is early. It's funny, do you remember back in the days when you didn't ever have to get up?
I do not. My memory is not that great any longer, so it's unfortunate. A lot of things that happened in my life that I just don't remember any longer.
I mean, it seems like throughout your life, different times become early, It's like a long time ago, or like in high school, you're like, oh, what? We have a thing going on at 9 o'clock on Saturday? What the heck? It's like...
I still feel that way, man. On a Saturday, anything early on a Saturday that I'm not too interested in. Interest me.
But because it's not interesting. You said you're not interested in it.
Right. Right.
Like,
if it's early on a Saturday and I just could care less about it, chances of me doing it are slim. Yeah, they're slim.
What if it was like you're heading to the airport to fly to Austria?
I'd be interested in that. I said things that I'm not interested in.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's not, but that's not the time as much anymore. It's just the level of excitement.
Time. I think that's true always. Time has little to do with it. If you're excited about something, you probably aren't going to sleep anyways. If it's something big, I never sleep hardly at all the night before because I'm so excited about doing this thing the next day. So I get to start out the thing that I'm most excited for totally exhausted.
That's the best.
That is the best. That way you're just your energy just comes from enthusiasm. Physically it's just fumes, but all of your energy just comes from like adrenaline and stuff. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I usually don't sleep well if there's something going on the next morning that's out of the ordinary. Like I have like recently I had some dentist appointments like right away at the morning, like 8 o'clock. And then sometimes for that, even though it's not like super early, it's still, I know like, oh, tomorrow I have this thing that I'm not looking forward to.
Mm.
And then it's just like on my mind, and I don't know. Sometimes that kind of thing. That's more.
How many teeth did you have to have pulled this last trip to the dentist?
I've only had one adult tooth when I was a kid. I had a tooth pulled before it was time because I had a cavity, and they were like, well, it's gonna come back anyways, so we'll just take it out. But I only had one of my wisdom teeth pulled. Otherwise, I have no teeth pulled.
Really? Wow. Cade has to have all of his wisdom teeth taken out this summer.
Ah.
Yeah, he's already got one poking through. Isn't that crazy?
Did you get yours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine are gone.
You just did it yourself?
Yeah, I did it myself. It took a few hours, and so
get those rusty pliers from the basement.
Yep. I just broke it out a little bit at a time.
Like one of those, like a mountain, those picks you use when you're in the quarry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Seth, here in the States, a lot of news has been circulating. We'll move on from the small talk section of our podcast.
Did you say smallpox or small talk?
Small talk.
Oh.
Not smallpox. Yeah, small talk. I don't know if that's what I said or not.
No, I don't think
But
just...
anyways, have you heard about the Roe v. Wade thing?
Somewhat. I heard that there was a leak about the decision and that it's going to get overturned, right? I
don't know if any of that is true. I've heard both sides. But it did cause me just to think about this, right? To just think about what if Roe v. Wade would be overturned. Obviously, I know, you have people in your family that are pretty active in the pro-life, I don't know what you call it, circle. And of course, most of us that just value life in general, whether Christian or not, really hate to see perfectly good babies being killed for no real reason other than the women that happen to be pregnant with these children have very little hope in their lives a lot of times. And so, or they've also maybe had some sort of traumatic situation, and there's obviously medical reasons sometimes. There's a lot of different reasons, but the vast majority of abortions come from situations where it's low income or poverty, and ethnic, right? Other ethnic minorities. So this seems to be a situation where it's kind of this narrow group of people, right? In the United States anyways. I don't know how it is elsewhere. That fit into a pretty tight demographic that are having abortions. And so it just got my brain, like the little wheels that the mice run on in my head, they started running a little faster when I was thinking about the possibility of this being overturned. Mm-hmm. And I can't, as a cynical Christian, and when I say cynical, I'm cynical about Christians, right? And especially in this era of like Christian nationalism, that seems to be super pervasive in evangelical circles. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, let's say this is overturned, right? How are these people going to look at this? I already know how I would look at it, but how would people that are very Christian nationalistic look at this would their perspective be on it? Have you given that any thought, Seth?
So not what I think, but what I assume nationalistic
Yeah.
Christians would think.
So yeah, these people that kind of are in this Christian nationalism movement, how are they going to view this? And then I do want to talk about, I think, how we should view it, right? Like, how should we view it? Which is anti-Christian nationalism. So I am not a Christian nationalist at all. But yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about this because I think it does reflect, and I hope, Seth, that I would be wrong about this. Do you want me just to dive into it? You want me to dive into that and you should give your thoughts? I want to be wrong. This isn't something I want to be right about, but my guess is the vast majority of evangelical Christians who have supported politics with their finances in hopes of having things like Roe v. Wade overturned, would call this a political victory. And probably, instead of then diverting their own funds to support ministries that would now go into these spaces, right, and help out these women who have no hope and need other things to happen in their lives, I think instead of that happening, what some of these evangelical circles would do is they would double down on their political efforts and start sending more and more money to politicians to kind of create this, Christian utopia in their minds, like a political American, utopia where all the laws of the land reflect, all their whims, right?
Yep.
That's if this happens, right? If Roe v. Wade is overturned, that is my prediction as to what that will look like. Now, my opinion is, let's say it is overturned, that should be a call to all Christians, right? Okay, there are going to be probably hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of women in our country now that are looking at either one, having illegal abortions, yeah, or two, really having some difficulties in potentially raising a child, in their situation, and so I would think that would be a call to Christians to double down, divert the political funding, and start supporting ministry that actually helps women and consequently children in these low-income areas for these ethnic minority groups. So I don't know, man. That has just been on ever since I saw that, that's just been bouncing around in my tiny little brain. Yeah. Maybe preemptively getting frustrated about something that could happen. And so I thought it would be an interesting thing, because I know in your family, you grew up in a household that was very pro-life and very active in that movement. So what are your thoughts on all this, Seth?
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought much about or haven't had as much of the cynical thoughts about, people who maybe have the wrong motives, what they're going to do with this. Because you're right. There's definitely going to be people who celebrate this for the wrong reason, or kind of just are wanting to have continual success for their party, I guess, or I don't know, want their side of things, their position, their group to become stronger and more powerful, or whatever the different reasons are for that mindset. But I know a lot of people, and you alluded to the fact that I grew up around pro-life, the pro-life movement, a lot of people who were very passionate about it. And I also experienced very real, like, people making a real change in that. And the actions, where the actions and the words come together, or the actions and the money come together, and those kind of things, like being God's the hands and feet of God, and also, holding up signs in a public space where people become aware of these kind of things, or just, having booths at your local state fair, your county fair, or whatever. So people come by and are like, oh, wow, a baby looks like this when it's 2 months old, or whatever,
Right.
And they're like, I thought it was just a blob of whatever stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, that in itself is, I think, powerful. So I guess I'm kind of, what I would be excited for is just the people that have legitimately kind of been toiling away, and in my mind being God's hands and feet at the front of this kind of movement for years, and seeing that as just another step in a good direction, but also a big challenge for us as a church to say, like, okay, there's going to be new challenges that come with it. I guess the biggest thing that I hope doesn't happen is that there's a sense of satisfaction or victory, and our job has been completed. Now we can move on to the next thing.
You do know that's what would happen, though, right?
For some people, but like you just said, I don't know a lot of Christians like that, and you might have more of a connection where it's just like, okay, this is done, now our fight is over. I know people who go to, just have been praying for decades and decades and decades for those people that are making those decisions, for those young women who are raising kids on their own. I know a lot of people who are actively in ministry in poor areas of the United States.
Well, that's because that's the circle that you're in, right? I don't think that's the vast majority of evangelical Christianity, unfortunately. You happen to be in a circle of Christians who do the things that I feel we're probably called to do, right? The people that feed, clothe, give shelter to, those types of things. But I don't think that's the vast majority of evangelical Christians, unfortunately.
Well, it's like, I've shared this before with you probably, but I grew up with having a lot of kids in our house because my mom was helping out a single mother, by watching her kids so she could work or whatever.
Right.
And so I got to experience a lot of that stuff kind of firsthand,
right,
and what that means. And those are like the steps we have to be willing to make. Is like, okay, we want women, to help out women who are in difficult situations, having to choose if they're able to, and wanting to try and raise a child by themselves. But yet, what are we going to do to ensure that that person is not alone in that life? And I see in my wife too. She's someone who I'm amazed by just how much of a heart she has for, and not just single mothers, but just mothers, and helping them with their child bearing. What's the word? Just like raising children in itself is a huge task, and I would say almost most most of us need help at times doing that, and some much more than others. And then you throw in the fact that there's a lot of single women doing that, then obviously it's just a huge struggle. And so we need to be, as a church, ready to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not really an answer in that besides just like be the church, you know. Like
right, yeah, be the church is the answer. Unfortunately, we just don't see much of that from a lot of people that should be the church, right? Now I know there are churches doing, like churches, not the church, but within the church, churches that are doing wonderful things. I feel fortunate to be part of a denomination that I think actively tries to participate, in those types of things. I know you do. Yeah, it's just a worry. It's my beef with the church, with a lot of churches, a lot of church groups. It's just my beef in general, I think, with why aren't we being more hands-on? We just, we expect other people to do this type of work for us so we can kind of keep our hands clean. And so this, to me, we're basically setting the stage for one more opportunity to do this, try to keep our hands clean. Was that an "I love you, Daddy"? Did I hear that?
I don't know.
I love you, Daddy.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't hear. I can't make out exactly what that was, but that was.
I think
wrestling.
one of your children said, "I love you, Daddy."
I hope that's what it was, and not like, "I need my special car that I left in your room." Yeah, I mean, and there's a danger on both sides to become cynical, and just like you're saying, when you see a lot of Christian nationalism, it's also the danger is to become cynical and be like, oh, well, you just sit back and criticize the Christians that are doing it the wrong way, but then at the same time, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
To help be like, well, they're doing it the wrong way, so I can at least point that out, pat on the back.
Thankfully, I'm perfect, so.
Yeah, or just like, I'm just not getting involved, so that way I don't have to have a polarizing.
I don't want to think about this. La, 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 la. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just like a lot of, the whole thing is just becomes one big clump when it's not just like that. It's not everyone who voted for Trump wasn't a nationalist, in the first place.
Right.
But not everyone who stayed away from it and said, like, oh, no, we're more, forward-thinking, progressive Christians or whatever who won't get involved heavily in politics. Doesn't mean they were actually involved in the real-life church business of loving and taking care of people.
Sure.
And there's people kind of over... Sometimes the ones that are very most politically involved are also the ones that are really actually involved in their neighborhood too, and it's like they're kind of It's hard. I had a long discussion about this topic and the whole political aspect of it, and it's hard because you read about slavery back in the day, and I read we read this biography on William Wilberforce, who he was in Europe, but he was a political figure, and part of the reason slavery came to an end was because of his work in the political realm. Yeah. But how he handled himself, not just like, oh, I'm going to become as powerful as possible and in that, maybe do some good things, but it was like, I'm a Christian, I'm going to put God first, I'm going to put my family second, and like everyone else, my neighbors, loving my neighbors, that's going to be what I try to strive for as a politician. And that's also going to be, ending slavery is going to be part of that. And he was able to compromise, and he was able to work with everybody, even those across the aisle. And then huge things happened because of his faithful life. Right. Following Christ, but also politically getting in a powerful position where he had influence and stuff. So I feel like there is it's just so convoluted. I don't know. It's so hard now to like see through the weeds now. Anybody who's in politics, it feels like they're all kind of have secret agendas, and it's all dirty.
Well, yeah, politics became a way to make money and get power. And it's always been that, but it's such a business, and in this country anyways, it's become such a it's like a career, it's a business, it's like a way to move up, and yeah. Well, I think that's a good point that you're making, Seth, is that it isn't just one thing, it's like everything, right? I think when we focus just on one thing, then we kind of miss it. You know, so yeah, I do think it is good to address the political issues of these things, right? That is needed. But I think the point I'm making is like when we only address the political issue and we don't address the other part of it, then we miss the boat. And I think that's where we've been missing the boat, is we've just been addressing the political side of this, and we've been falling short on the, hey, we're here to help you. Like here's clothes, here's shelter, here's food, we're going to like literally help you raise this child. Like we're going to provide things that actually make this feasible for you to do it. And not only just get by, but do it and thrive, right? Like if we were making it right now, if we would have, and your brother-in-law posted something a couple of years ago. Do you remember that article that he posted about abortion?
Vaguely, probably something that turned into a lot of heated Facebook messaging back.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I think I probably saw it.
Yeah,
Vaguely.
But anyway, it talked about the effectiveness of reducing the rate of abortions, like by political means or by like the hands and feet, like on the ground, and research shows that it's way more effective to actually go support these women than it is to pump your money into some political system. And so yes, I do agree. Like laws and those things do need to be addressed, but a lot of times I don't even know if that's necessary if we're doing what we should be doing in the first place. I don't even know if abortions are way low. If there's hardly any abortions because we're being so effective as a church, then you really don't have to address any laws, right? Like there's nothing to address. We're just taking care of it. We're doing what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's something I've never been like super involved in the political realm. I have a couple of my friends here, and then obviously some people in the States who are more heavily active in that, and with their time and effort and money or whatever invested in politics. But the hard thing is like, yeah, for me, often I feel like I've gotten too apathetic or whatever about it and be like, I don't know, what does it really matter that much? What if I vote in the previous elections, I haven't really felt real comfortable with anybody. So it's like,
yeah,
where do I, how can I even, in a good conscience do A or B, and then just have that mindset, like you were saying. Well, as a Christian, why even get involved with politics? Why not just be the hands and feet, be on the ground, kind of doing God's work? But at the same time, it's like, well, do we just leave the political realm over to just like the corrupt and the lawless or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's the best option either. It's like,
yeah.
I wish there was more Christians, like people like William Wilberforce, who were involved in politics, and you could be like, hey, I'm going to support this guy and get along because he's actually through love wanting to make a difference. Yeah. But I don't know if there's that many.
I know there are good Christian people, and I know there's just good people in general in politics that maybe don't affiliate with Christian or anything else. I don't know. I know that there's just generally speaking, people with pretty good motives that are in politics. Unfortunately, we don't hear about those people too much because they don't do some of the things that get other politicians, are kind of in the limelight because of like corrupt things they're doing, or because they're so boisterous and kind of go about things in ways to draw attention to themselves.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and
Right. And so like good intentioned people with pure motives, a lot of times get overlooked because they kind of work in the background. They may have got elected, but they're not the flashy, shiny object that everybody notices. And so, anyways, it's definitely something along, with all the other world issues. I was just looking at some stuff. Myanmar continues to be a country that is experiencing a lot of political unrest and violence. Of course, Ukraine, what's taking place there. And there's just a lot of stuff going on all over the world. We're pretty sheltered and isolated from it. And, but, this is important too. We obviously want to protect life as much as we possibly can. Unfortunately, it seems like there's other forces out there that are constantly trying to destroy life, in one way or another, whether literally taking life or, by capturing our attention and basically rendering our lives useless. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the hope or a hope for me, is that we, at least as Christians, can start out with the same mindset of life is important. God cares about every life, and then move on from there. And not, I just don't want to have such a negative or apathetic, or I don't know, a view of like, well, abortion, those movements, it's so caught up into politics that I don't even know. I think whatever, who cares what happens with that? You know what I mean? Because I talked to Christians where I feel like it's getting more and more like that. It's like, well, I don't know, who am I to say this and this?
Whatever.
And
I just want to live my life.
yeah, and that's sad too, because obviously it's partly the doing of some Christians that create that, where it's like, oh, these Christians that say they want to care about babies, really it's just like their political
That's how they got elected
thing or whatever. So, but yeah, I just hope, like, hey, let's agree. We don't want babies to suffer. We don't want young mothers, any mothers, to go through just an awful experience trying to raise a child in horrible circumstances. We want to be there for those situations. We want to help fathers who think like, hey, I can't have a baby right now. I can't even provide for myself and for my wife or whatever. And so let's just put our heads together and
right, because like abortion is not a win-win situation, right? Like and I don't even know if you could say it's a win-lose. On the economic side of it, it may be a win, right? Like, okay, now this child that I could not afford, I don't have to raise.
Mm-hmm.
So you could call that a win, but emotionally, I know there's enough women out there that you've heard their stories that say having that abortion was as traumatic as any other aspect of that situation, and then the guilt and shame, and and people would argue, well, your culture is putting the guilt and shame on these people, and whatever. But at best, emotionally, that's a neutral, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not a positive or negative. At best, the emotional aspect of abortion is neutral. And then, of course, you have the loss of a baby's life, which is a negative, right? And so, but what if we could create a situation that was, instead of a win, negative, neutral, what if we could create a situation that was a win, right? And I think that is the way of Jesus, right? The way of Jesus is a win when we actually really explore what the way of Jesus is. Jesus wants that mother to win. Jesus wants that baby to win. Jesus is concerned about the emotional and financial well-being of both. And but as human beings, most times we're just looking for a win on our side. We don't care what the cost is. So I think that's on both sides of it right now. Christians, many Christians are willing to save the life of a child and could care less about the mother. As long as they get, their way on that side. And then on the other side of it, they want to protect the mother and, at the expense of the child. And neither one of those solutions are any good. So, yeah.
It's it's that conversation and a topic that's not going to be going away in our lifetime, I don't think.
No, probably not. Well, brother, it was good. I know I did a lot of the talking. I'm sorry, but it was just something that's been in my little brain, like I said, just kind of bouncing around. And I thought it'd be something we could talk about today. So,
well, as always, I enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah. Well, blessings to you, your family. Before we started talking about this off air, we were talking about bicycles. So
yeah.
So we'll wrap this up and then we'll finish our bicycle conversation. So peace out to everybody. Thank you, brother.
See you, man.